What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on DZ Analysis. We're going to be checking out MSTR and Bitcoin today. Currently sitting at 177.71. Market's going to open up in 1 minute. Closed yesterday at 171.42. And you can see what happened yesterday as we pushed down to 155, made a sharp little recovery, and still closed within these wicks over here. Around this area, about 167. That's where we initially opened, dropped, and then we ended up pushing up from that price point. We'll see what happens. We just gapped up a little bit, like I said. We're currently at 179 pretty much right now. We gapped from 171 to that 177 mark for the open. We'll see how the day goes, and we'll be watching if we can break the structure here at 187. Can increase the odds of us breaking, retesting, and trying to make a clean move. As you can see, the left hand side up until this resistance point at around 207 or so. Of course, to the downside, we broke this area here, but luckily we closed back above it. That point was about 166 that we wanted to close above, and we held that. But if we were to close underneath that 166 mark, look for some kind of resistance. If we hold it, then we could be looking at lower targets. And like I said, for the upside, we already talked about that. And last week we closed at around 177. Pretty much, if we can break above 214, then it can see us going back to 230. And if we can hold above that level, then we can make a move back to around 248. We'll see if Bitcoin has found a temporary bottom, especially since we're at extreme fear. Typically, when you see that kind of fear in the market, it was all the way down to 16, which is incredibly low. We'll see what ends up happening from that point on. Extreme greed. Typically, you'll see a drop in extreme fear. You can see some kind of rally, at least short term. We'll see if MSTR can start to perform with Bitcoin or outperform. We'll be watching MSTR divided by IBIT, which we'll go over in the video. And on the weekly, you can see the SMAs, the 20 still pushing down on the 50, and we're almost down to the 200, which, like I said, was that's going to be a major level of support right there once we make contact with it. If we do, that would be around 142 currently. And on the daily, we have our 20 slowly approaching price. Looks like we're trying to make our move up. We'll see how today plays out, of course. Like I said, on the Bollinger Bands, we're hugging this bottom band the entire time. We're trying to make a little move up. We'll see if we can make a move all the way to the blue band, the middle band, or if we continue to hug to the downside. And on the weekly, we're still practically in the same spot where we've been hugging the green outer band to the downside. On our short-term rally indicator, we got this 8 EMA on the weekly right here. We're still holding underneath it, so we want to break back above that like we did here, and you can see you tend to have pretty decent moves to the upside. Once you break above it, you can see you get some kind of a little pop to the upside. Nothing too major, but that's what we're looking for, and practically the same thing on the daily. We're looking for it on the daily first and then on the weekly after, because the daily is a smaller time frame. The weekly RSI has reached incredibly low levels at 26, so we'll see if we found a bottom there. As you can see, we typically don't spend too much time at these levels. We made it down to 23, 24 in 2017, practically the same in 2019, and 2022 you can see we made it down to about 26, and that's currently where we're at. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see at least some kind of small move to the upside. And same thing here on the daily, we're kind of looking for some upside. We did break above this yellow moving average. We will see where it takes us, but it is starting to look okay, promising, maybe little by little. Right now, we kind of still have been seeing this move to the downside, and the RSI is kind of showing a little bit of strength. So we'll see if there's a little bit of divergence, and we can start to see a little bit of a pop to the upside. Weekly MACD is still showing that bearish momentum. It's still increasing to the downside. This past week right now, it's still a little bit lower than the previous week. We'll see how it finishes, of course. That's what we're going to wait for. We're going to wait to see if it's a little bit longer or if it stays a little bit shorter. And if it starts a little bit shorter, then maybe we can start to see it dwindle down and then eventually flip green, which could bring some bullishness. And right here on the daily, we're in a pretty decent spot. As you can see, we have the blue overturning on the orange. You can see it's flipping back above, and we got a green flip. So that's a very bullish sign. As you can see, the momentum died out, just like we were talking about on the weekly. We just saw that on the daily. So this is kind of like this indicator is going to precede the weekly because it's a smaller indicator, like I said before, the daily. What we're seeing here is kind of what I'm anticipating on the weekly if the momentum continues. So we'll be keeping a lookout for that. Currently sitting at 183. It's trying to push up. Like I said, if we can break 187 and hold that, you have clean traffic to the left-hand side, which increases the odds of a move to 207. Like I said, nothing's guaranteed. It doesn't have to happen. So we can still break above 187 and still not make it to 207. So nothing is written in stone. I know people want it to be a certain way and it has to be this way, and it's just not how it works. On Bitcoin, we saw a nice move back to this trend line right here. We saw a perfect touch right there. So we'll see if that ends up being a local bottom before a move up higher, or if we actually continue to break underneath it. Right now it's looking pretty good. As you can see, we had some wicking action. This wasn't looking good when it pushed back underneath the structure here, because this is a minor level of support. Once we saw it break underneath, kind of like, oh man, if this holds, then we could retest and push down. But it ended up bouncing back pretty strong, and we're pretty much in that same spot like on MSTR. If we can hold a close above this point right here, about 95.8, look for kind of a close, retest, and then we're more than likely going to push back to this next level of resistance if we can do that, which is sitting at 98 to about 100,000. So be on the lookout for that. But that was a major level of support off of that trend line here. And when we pull up the SMAs, you can see the 20 is still pushing down. The 50 is slowly curling down. On the daily, we have a lot of resistance above our head off the 20, which has been kind of holding this trend to the downside. Based off of probabilities and what has happened in the past recent data here, you can see every time we come up to the 20, it's kind of just been a resistance point. And even here. So we'll see what happens now. On the bright side though, when we were touching the 20 moving average on these moves here, there wasn't really an uptrend starting to be established. And right now it's starting to look like we could be getting a form of an uptrend, a small trend upward. We'll see if it happens. But if we can kind of come back and hold another higher low, then it could start to be something pretty nice and a nice move to the upside. Now on the monthly, we still have to talk about this major level here. So with this level, we close all the way down here, but we can't ignore the fact that we surpassed this key level here. So on the monthly, we could be looking at some kind of retest. So is that what we're actually doing? Are we coming back for a retest to continue down? Or are we coming to retest, eventually break through, bounce off of it, and then continue that next move higher? So those are questions you have to kind of ask yourself and see what you think is going to happen. Of course, nobody knows. If we do make a move here, expect some kind of chop. Whether we fall back down or break through, you're going to have a major support here, support and resistance at this point around that 98, 96 to about 100K mark. And that's based off the monthly, and monthly has a very, very powerful time frame. So you can see, like in the past here, we had this level of resistance. We broke through it, and then we use it as a floor. As soon as we tap that level of support, it absolutely catapulted because it's on the monthly time frame. Because the monthly is a very powerful time frame, like I said. The month just started though, so we have 29 days and 10 hours. Just in terms of this candle here, we have a clean runway that we can run up. Of course, we have to look on the lower time frame, like I said, on the weekly here. It's still pretty clean, and even on the daily, it doesn't look too bad. Not too much resistance going on here. If Bitcoin catches a little, tailwind, this thing can shoot right back up into the hundreds and sit at 107 in no time. The next thing you know, now we're playing above this level and talking about touching the top of this trend line again. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And tether dominance, we are finding resistance right now. We'll see how it plays out. Saw this little peak right here, and then we saw a lower high right here. So we're hoping that the trend continues and we see something to the downside, and maybe we push up again, and that's a third lower high, and then we just start to see the downtrend. Then we touch this trend line and then eventually fall through. That's what we're looking for. If we can get something like that, then expect some kind of nice little rally for Bitcoin and potentially MSTR if MSTR decides to follow suit. In terms of the monthly, it looks like this is just the beginning of a wick. So just based off of like looking at it, I'm not telling you what's gonna happen because I don't know. This area right here, to me, it looks like that's just gonna be a wick. So if this turns out to be an entire wick and the body starts exactly where this body begins, maybe we can get the inverse of this candle here and we see a red candle to the downside, which would mean we see a rally on Bitcoin. Because it's so early in the month, that I don't see us just having a green engulfing candle to the upside. I mean, it's possible, anything's possible, but typically price action likes to head one way initially, especially when it's close to support and resistance, tap it, and then go in the opposite direction. Especially based off of a close like this, it kind of tries to wick fill and then maybe come back down. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here on tether dominance. On the SMAs, we do have, on the monthly, we have the 50 underneath us, so that could kind of stall out Bitcoin for a large move to the upside. And if we fall underneath it, then we could see a nice rally as we come down to the 20. And on the weekly, we have the 200 supporting us at around 5.8, which is not good because that's a lot of support. We want to see this thing fall through the 200 and push down to this 20 and 50 over here because that would be a nice move for Bitcoin. And on the daily, we've kind of just been riding the 20 this entire time, just bouncing off of it and continuing higher and higher. And this time here looks no different. The only difference I would say is that, so we kind of have been seeing like a push up, a clean retest, push up, clean retest, push up, clean retest. So you can kind of see that trend, how it's very powerful. This trend will more than likely continue if we just start to really push past this wick. Then I think this trend is going to probably continue. But what we're starting to see right now is it's still early on. This is coming back for this test potentially early on, which could start to signal a little bit of weakness because you can see it's a solid push up, then a decent little pullback. Solid push up, pullback. Solid push up, pullback. It didn't even really get a push up and it's already pulling back. So that could be a little, like I said, an early sign of weakness, which means that potentially we could fall underneath this 20-day moving average. And if we could do that and fall underneath the 20 and this level of support, we can make a move down to this 50, potentially see that nice move that we're hoping for on Bitcoin. On to the dollar. Now we got our nice little bounce off of the support level. Now the question I kind of have, so we're in this range right here. We have two conflicting things. So in terms of TA, technical analysis, we have a channel, an obvious channel. We're at the bottom of the channel and we have clean moves to the upside. So this could easily push above here, continue all the way up to 108 in terms of technical analysis. But on the flip side, what makes me wonder what's going to happen is because the Fed is now going to begin to, well, they're ending QT. They ended QT yesterday. And eventually they're going to pivot towards QE, quantitative easing. They're going to pump money into the economy. So if that begins, then assets, whether it's Bitcoin, stocks, real estate, will increase in value because there's going to be more money in supply. And since there's more supply of money, that means the value of the dollar would probably take a hit. So I'm kind of, stuck in between, like what should happen. I don't really know. Based off of TA, it looks like we're going to see upside. But based off of what the Fed is doing, it sounds like we would chop sideways or continue down further. So that's kind of my thoughts right now for the dollar. Let me know in the comment section what you think. And for MSTR divided by IBIT, this thing's been continuously bleeding out. Large moves to the downside. We had this first angle and the very steep angle now. It looks like we came for a retest of that angle. We'll look at the daily here. And it looks like we tried to make a touch just recently. Maybe I have to adjust it a little bit. I don't know. Kind of looks like we might have touched it. That might have counted as a touch just this morning. Is that we had that small little outperformance, I guess. We'll see if it plays out throughout the day or not. See a little bit of wick right here, so we'll see if this starts to bleed again or if we can actually start to see a bottom potentially. But my guess is that MSTR underperforms Bitcoin from here on out for this cycle. I'm assuming. Like I said, it doesn't have to play out that way. I could be completely wrong, but that's my guess. And MSTR will then, do something crazy again. In the next cycle, it'll outperform just how it did now. It'll outperform for a certain period and then underperform again because MSTR tends to front run Bitcoin's moves. So I don't think anything different is happening here. MSTR cycles end earlier than Bitcoin cycles. That's just how it goes. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.